Hi everyone, this is Kyle, and I'm going to go back to One Piece here a bit. So I have this one interesting interview here, and this is from the voice actor of Goku, Schemmel. Now this article here, it's from boundingintocomics.com, but the original interview, it comes from bleedingcool.com, right here. And in this interview, it came out a good, 2 weeks or so ago at this point. But I mean, all the main important points here are summed up here on Bounding Into Comics article. Dragon Ball voice actor Schemmel admits he's not a fan of Netflix's One Piece, says he's still not convinced anime can be properly translated to live action. Now, I'll be reading from Bounding Into Comics, but again, original interview, it's from bleedingcool.com. Just for the record, bleedingfool.com is better than bleedingcool.com. I actually have one article written on Bleeding Fool. I want to write some more articles on bleedingfool.com, but right now I always seem to be pretty busy. But I do want to write some more articles on Bleeding Fool. So this interview from Schemmel, he's a voice actor. He was the voice of Goku on Dragon Ball Z, or the Dragon Ball series. He does say a few interesting things in this interview I do agree with. Now Schemmel, he is part of the woke crowd, as we would call it, or the social justice crowd, that general group. Now while Netflix's One Piece, it's been a real popular adaptation, and for good reason. Now, Schemmel, he says here he's not a fan of Netflix's One Piece, but it's not for any reasons like Netflix doesn't have any messages in the show or anything like that. It has more to do with adapting anime into live action. And I'm also going to say right now, for the record, Schemmel and and the other voice actors, actresses on the Dragon Ball series, I don't want to talk about Schemmel like he's a good person here. You look up a guy, Vic Mignogna, and you look up what the voice actors, voice actresses on Dragon Ball did to him. Schemmel included in there. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting what they did to that guy. So I just for the record. So the article starts off here. Despite the rare successes of such adaptations as Rurouni Kenshin Kingdom and One Piece, Dragon Ball series voice actor Schemmel still believes that it's inherently impossible to accurately translate any given anime production to live action. And yeah, there have been a lot of failures out there. Schemmel, who is perhaps best known for providing the English voice of Son Goku and King Kai across the various American dubs of Dragon Ball, offered his thoughts on the topic during a recent interview with Bleeding Cool. Speaking to Hollywood's abysmal track record with live-action anime adaptations, Sean told the outlet's Tom Chang, "It's weird because I've kind of got an insider view and I've watched Hollywood try to understand anime my entire career and they still don't get it. It's not until you see, and I'm not entirely sure the anime genre trends will ever translate well to live action," he added. "I'm not entirely convinced." Turning to Hollywood's latest take on anime, Netflix's One Piece, Schemmel opined, "I've only watched part of the live-action One Piece and frankly I think it's terrible." The Dragon Ball Z live-action movie, Dragon Ball Evolution, was also terrible for a different reason, though, he then elaborated. They had switched directors halfway through before they even started production. Well, I mean, that certainly doesn't help, but if you ask me here, there's two pictures here. Let me just show you. So this right here, this is Goku in the live-action Dragon Ball movie. And this is the actual Goku. Live-action Goku, and again, actual Goku. Do you see any similarity between those two? I don't. I mean, I guess they're wearing the same outfit maybe. I mean, beyond that, they don't look similar at all. I mean, Goku, he has a very distinct hairstyle. Like, there's no hairstyle out there like Goku's hair. And yeah, I mean, this was the best that they could do with that. Now, I do agree, anime in a lot of cases, it can be very difficult to translate into live action. I don't know if it's even worth translating into live action in a lot of cases. I mean, Dragon Ball is just an example here. You've got stuff like Kamehamehas, and those of you who've watched Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, you know what I'm talking about. I used to watch that show when I was much younger. But I mean, if you try to put a Kamehameha onto into a live action movie, yeah, I mean, how's that going to look? And you see how fast people move in the anime when they're fighting, and how's that going to look in a live action movie? I don't know. So yeah, I do agree there are a lot of, or I do think there are a lot of difficulties in terms of trying to adapt anime into live action. I mean, some stories out there might be better off just left as anime. Dragon Ball, I probably think, is one of them. I don't know if Dragon Ball is really something that you can adapt very well into live action. I don't know, maybe someone out there can do it, but my bet is probably no. Fully aware this was a minority opinion, Schemmel explained that his issue with One Piece was not the production itself, but rather the live-action medium's inability to fully realize the anime's less realistic elements. Yeah, I do agree. Anime, there are a lot of things in anime that are kind of difficult to adapt into live action. It's interesting, and I'm sorry about my opinions. The Yu Yu Hakusho voice actor noted, I feel as a public figure, I feel so nervous about, like, even saying I don't like the One Piece live action very much. That's not necessarily the cast and crew's fault. They're probably all talented. That's more the execution in terms of the genre translating. But I mean, a huge part of why One Piece has been real successful, well, I got 5 simple words to that. Stick to the source material. One Piece, they did that. The Dragon Ball adaptation, well, again, this is the Goku in the live action adaptation, and this is the actual Goku. They don't look anything similar, and I mean, the actual Dragon Ball adaptation, I mean, there was, I don't know, if you can name any similarities that the live action Dragon Ball movie had to the actual anime, go ahead and name them in the comments. I mean, characters had the same names, but okay, anyway. Once you see a real bona fide attempt by a high-budget studio handling the effects they do in anime, because you also got to reconcile a big part of anime, explained Schemmel. A big part of the style is giant eyeballs, which makes a big difference in the style. When you're shooting anime, everybody's human beings with normal-sized eyeballs, but anime has these giant eyes that have fascinated everyone for decades. It's part of the style, and that alone, plus the hair, the special effects, subject matter, can be. And yeah, I mean, this is a good point here. I mean, the hair, Goku's hair, is very distinct. I mean, the giant eyeballs, I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously anime art, manga is going to look a bit different from normal people. Drawing his thoughts to a close, Schemmel told Chang that ultimately, I see so much stuff going on and it's all mainstream, I still don't feel like Hollywood higher-ups are ever going to get it until all these kids who grew up in it get jobs and start doing that. Yeah, this I agree with. I mean, I think he's essentially saying you need fans of the actual property to be working on that property. I mean, if that's what he's saying here, which it sounds like, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. Alright, now, I mean, in support of his theory, he talks about last season of Picard here, which I have not seen that, so I can't comment. But he's saying that Roy Burdine, a fan of Star Trek, he was the one working on it. But again, I mean, I can't really say anything there. I mean, Schemmel says, will this genre translate to live action? The man who has voiced Goku for nearly a quarter century concluded, I'm not convinced it will yet, but I could be wrong for sure. You know, and then the writer for this article, was it Nerdigans, I believe? Yeah, Nerdigans Inc. It points out, it should be noted that despite Schemmel's belief that anime style is impossible to capture in the real world, numerous productions have shown that some progress is being made on that front. From live action Gintama, I have not seen that film, rather successfully recreating protagonist Jintoki Satka's messy blue hair, to James Cameron's enlarging of the titular heroine's eyes in his 2019 take on Alita Battle Angel. Yeah, I saw Alita Battle Angel when it came out in theaters. I liked that movie a lot. I mean, that was probably one of the best movies I had seen come out in a while. I mean, I thought the world was fun. I mean, the futuristic sci-fi sort of dystopian world it took place in. Well, I guess it took place on Earth, but you know, the setting it took place in, I thought looked really good. I thought Alita was a likable character. And you know, I had been wanting there to be sequels to Alita Battle Angel. I guess there's going to be some sequels in the works, but I am skeptical because the studio that owns Alita Battle Angel is 20th Century Fox. I guess they're called 20th Century Television now or something like that. They are owned by Disney, so I kind of have a feeling that Disney's going to be putting their fingerprints all over the sequels. And if they do, they're probably going to be terrible. They're probably going to have no resemblance to the first movie at all. But again, we'll wait and see. And to Luffy's use of his Gum Gum abilities in Netflix's One Piece, it's clear that Hollywood has at the very least left its days of turning the Kamehameha into an impotent burst of air far behind them. And yeah, there are some natural difficulties in adapting anime into live action. But I tell you this, I mean, just in general, stick to the source material. That has a lot to do with this too. A lot of why One Piece was such a success was, you know, the people who were working on it, they showed respect for the actual original manga and the creator of that manga. I mean, you have a ton of interviews where the showrunners for One Piece, they're saying stuff like, we gotta stick to the source material, it's not a good idea to stray far from it. We have to involve the creator in every decision we make. Now, for the record, the creator, Ichiro Oda, creator for One Piece, he was heavily involved in the adaptation. He guarded his property like a dog, as he put it. And I think that has a lot to do with why One Piece wound up being such a success and why it wound up sticking to the source material. I mean, while the people, the showrunners for the show, they certainly have been they've been saying all the right things. I do wonder how much of their respect for the original One Piece material, how much of it is genuine. If Ichiro Oda wasn't so involved in the adaptation, if he didn't have final say on everything, if nothing had to be run by him, would these showrunners be saying all these things that they're saying, that they have to respect the source material and stuff like that? And would they have adapted it as faithfully as they did? I don't know. That's always something I'm going to wonder. But regardless, they did show respect for the source material, and One Piece, it is a success, and it's gotten a second season, very deservedly so. And a lot of it has to do with them simply respecting the original story, or the original manga. I mean, Netflix did another live-action adaptation for another anime, Cowboy Bebop. They made changes to that, and that show, it was a failure. Dragon Ball, their live-action adaptation, it didn't really have that much resemblance to the Dragon Ball anime. That had a lot to do with why it didn't do so well. And yes, translating stuff from Dragon Ball onto live action, yeah, there are some difficulties there, but they did not stick to their source material that much, as I remember. I mean, the movie came out, probably at least 10 years ago now? I forget the exact year it came out, but it was a while ago. So yeah, I mean, I think you look at One Piece, I think the lesson to take from that, if you want to make a good adaptation, the formula for doing it, or the recipe for doing it, is if you're the creator, you have to be involved. You have to guard your property like a dog, as Ichiro Oda put it. You have to make sure that every decision is run by you. You have to make sure that you're going to have final say on everything, and you have to make sure that the showrunners and the people working on that adaptation, they're not going to put that show out there until you, the creator, are satisfied. I mean, I'm going to go outside of anime for a second here. I mean, Lord of the Rings. Amazon made a Rings of Power show, and, Tolkien, he passed away 50 years ago, so unfortunately, he does not have the ability to guard his work like a dog like Ichiro Oda is. And Tolkien's son, Christopher, God love Christopher Tolkien, he passed away a few years ago, and so he no longer has the ability to guard his father's work like a dog. Now, the Lord of the Rings trilogy made by Peter Jackson some 20-25 years ago, that was a huge success. And I mean, yeah, there were some changes in there. There were some things cut out. I mean, like Tom Bombadil was cut out, the Old Forest, Crick Hollow, Fog on the Barrows. There were some other changes in there that were made. But I mean, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies, they were far more faithful to the actual story than, probably anything that's being adapted today, arguably. Now, the Christopher Tolkien, the Tolkien estate, they were not involved in the Lord of the Rings movies, as I remember. And just for the record, Christopher Tolkien, he did not like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies. So, keep that in mind here. But I mean, while Christopher Tolkien was not really involved in those movies, as I remember, the one thing that those Lord of the Rings movies had going for them were, as Sean Schemmel put it here, I still don't feel like Hollywood higher-ups are ever going to get it until all these kids who grew up on it get jobs doing that and start doing that, which I think what he means is, someone who's a fan of that story, who loves that story, is who's the one who's working on it. I mean, that was something that Lord of the Rings, those original movies, they had going for him. Peter Jackson had the utmost respect for Tolkien, and that's a lot of why those adaptations were good. And yes, those movies were made 20-25 years ago, before all this woke lunacy took over entertainment. That has a lot to do with it too. I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies, thank God they were made 20 years ago. If they were made today, can you imagine what they'd be like? They would be terrible if they were made today. I mean, now that Christopher Tolkien has passed away, now the woke crowd out there, they're putting their fingerprints all over Tolkien's work, as we've seen with Amazon's adaptation, or their show. I mean, one big thing I see in all this here is, if you're the creator of a work and they're making a live-action adaptation of your work, you have to be involved in it. And you have to make sure that they're sticking to the source material. If you don't do that, they will screw it up. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.